Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's lager episode, we're rounding off Oktoberfest, or should we say Oktastyfest, with a mass of Festbier and a hearty Prost. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. Oktastyfest.
Oh, don't be allergic to fun, Joe.
That's what you went with.
Oh, sorry, we're allergic to fun now. We're allergic to fun now.
Sorry, Minister of Fun. I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, let's not be allergic to fun.
Okay.
All right? How else would you describe Marzes and Festbiers? Would you not describe them as Oktastyfest? They are tasty.
Marzens,
they are
yes.
festy.
Festbiers are not my fave, so
Well,
I'm less enthusitic about them, but I can understand your enthusiasm.
We can talk about why.
Yes.
We'll talk about why they're not your favourite today. But, you know, for me, Oktoberfest overall is Oktastyfest. It's all the best things. It's pretzels, it's sausages, it's amazing lagers, it's dancing on tables, it's big bench, but, like, the big bench isn't the breaking bench. Like, it is... Of course it's Oktastyfest to me.
Oktastyfest. There you go. Right, so in our second of our Oktastyfest
2 of 2
episodes, we looked at Marzen previously. Go back and have a listen to that if you haven't already. And then come back and have a listen to our one about Festbier. Because this is what Oktoberfest beer is all about. Dun, dun, dun. We've got one here. We've got 2 today. So this might be a slightly shorter episode, but we've still got all the fun facts and things for you. So we've got
it means that we just get to drink them more fully.
It does, actually, yeah, rather than trying to get through 4, which is what we did with Marzen. And I tend to find that a fest beer, like if they say it's a fest beer, then it's a fest beer. Whereas with Marzen, it can sometimes be a fest beer.
It is a big thing. We talked about, we alluded to this.
We did.
Last time, and it's a bit of a trap.
Yeah.
Will we have any info from you coming up about why that happens?
Yes.
All right,
we will.
hold the phone on that then when we get there.
Why this happened? Why did we end up with this beer? I will tell you.
I think we should probably just get into it.
Let's just crack into this one. So we've got St. Georgian Brow, or that's probably not St. Georgian. That's probably the English version of it.
Yeah, that's probably the let's put the English
Georgen
name on.
is probably more accurate. Georgen Brow. And a Festbier is our traditional one.
Would it be like yogurt, like Jorgenbrau?
Jorgenbrau, yeah. Georgenbrau probably is what it's more like. More likely. Our German's terrible, as we have told you before.
But you're the one that's learning it. At least I've got the free pass. I'm not even I'm not even trying to learn it.
I speak to German people nowadays.
Yes.
I have a bit more of an understanding of how things are pronounced.
It is not. Oh, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Here we go.
All right.
This is a nice colour.
It is.
It's darker than some of the beers we had yesterday.
Genuinely. I've got my lovely mug out.
Nice.
My tiny jugs.
I've only got my tasting glasses today.
I've got 1 of 2 tiny jugs out. There we go.
It is probably a dark gold.
Oh, it smells better
like
than
amber.
some of what we had yesterday.
Nice, thick, foamy head on it. It smells like honey and bread.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yep.
It does. It just has that. It just has that beautiful, like sweet. It's like the grainy sweetness to it as well.
Got a little bit of herbal note to it.
Get my foamy beer stash on.
That's nice.
It's really lovely. That is the kind of stuff that I want when I think Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Not some of what we had yesterday, because that made me sad. Because I was like, that is not what I think of when I think of Oktoberfest.
Yeah. What ABV are we on this? Let's have a look. 5.6. That's quite low, actually. Do you want to hear some...
Still higher than yesterday's.
Yeah. Do you want to hear some stats?
Yeah.
For a Festbier? So, our vital stats, according to BJCP, for a Festbier, in colour it should be light gold to gold, 47 SRM. I think this is slightly dark.
It is... I wouldn't call that light gold.
No, I'd say that's dark gold.
Darker gold, yeah.
The ABV is normal to elevated, 5.8 to 6.3%. So this is just outside of that.
All of them so far have been like slightly lower compared to what they're supposed to be.
Perceived bitterness is low, 18 to 25, which is similar to the Marzen yesterday. Serving temperature 5.5 to 7.7 degrees Celsius, 42 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit, and the glass that you should use should be a Mass, because these are designed to be drunk in quantity.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not really drinking en masse.
No.
Unfortunately,
No.
it's baby
Just got
mass.
tasty ones today. To dive into that a little bit more, appearance, deep yellow to deep gold, should not have amber hues. See, I feel like this one's a bit amber.
I feel like if you say deep gold, I go okay.
Deep
like
gold,
I feel
yeah,
like deep
gold's
gold
probably a
works.
Good description.
Deep gold works, but equally, yeah, a touch of amber.
Yeah, it should have brilliant clarity. This one is pin bright.
I'm just trying to it's sort of like fogged up. And I'm like, let me just, before I say anything there, let me just unfog it. I can see you through this pretty good, actually.
It should have brilliant clarity.
I would definitely agree. It is brilliant clarity.
And it should have a persistent white to off-white head. It's got a pretty good head. I was quite
Mine
impressed
did.
with
It's
the
gone
head.
now because I can't stop drinking it.
I mean, you've still got a little bit there, so
I know. Actually, it is very persistent because, and yet it persists.
Aroma, moderate malt richness, toasty, doughy with an impression of sweetness. Definitely an impression
Oh,
of
that's
sweetness. Yeah, 100%.
But I feel like the doughy, like I definitely get
definitely
that doughy.
Yeah.
I really enjoy
Yeah.
it. Like I mean, I poured this all the way up, and I'm just. It's hard
away.
not to.
Low to medium low floral, herbal or spicy German hop notes. I definitely got that kind of herbal hop note in there. And a clean lager fermentation profile. Obvs, because we are drinking them. They're lagers. That's what we're doing on the lager series. Flavour, medium to medium high malt flavour. Lightly toasty, bread dough, soft sweetness. Mostly Pilsner malt, but with a light toastiness. Medium to medium low bitterness. Balanced towards the malt, well attenuated but not dry. So again, attenuation, that's how much sugar has been taken out by the yeast when it's fully attenuated. So this is well attenuated, but this isn't dry in the finish. So some of the ones we had yesterday, they were quite dry, whereas the Festbier shouldn't actually be. So they were wrong all round. Medium low to medium hop flavours from German hops, floral, herbal or spicy. Clean fermentation from the lager yeast, and it should have a flavourful finish.
It does have a flavourful finish. I will say that.
Yeah, I do get a bit of spicy hop.
Yeah, it's quite mild, but in the sense of it's noticeable. The same thing I think with the herbal notes. It was like mild, but clearly, for me, it was like noticeable enough.
It feels quite nicely rounded. In its flavours. There is that like light sweet, that soft sweetness there.
I think there's that like crisp at the end.
Yeah.
That like crispy finish.
Crispy boy.
It is a crispy boy.
Yeah, love it. Medium
and
body.
interestingly, it says on here as well the Keller beer again. So just as a point of reference, when we do you have any facts about that? And you'll be like, still no.
I still don't have any facts on that. I'll look it up when we do Keller beers.
No, but I thought I'd call out again that it is another one that says Keller beer. So just another one to keep in mind when we actually get to the Keller episode.
Let me look at that. So the alcohol strength should be barely noticeable. I think that's an interesting point, an important point, because obviously if you are at a Volksfest, at Oktoberfest or one of the other ones, then you are getting this in litre steins. So, you're getting a lot of it. So you need to be able to drink through it and not feel the alcohol.
I would agree. It's warming. Like, I feel like there is like a bit of a warming to it though, but I think that's just because of like the type of flavours it is. It's not like an alcohol warmth. It is just like, for me, it just feels like as the weather's starting to get chilly. Like, I think sometimes when you think lager, you just think like nice sunny weather. Like, I feel like people have this vision that it's like stouts for winter and the warmer months it's lager time. But actually, like, I feel like this is the type of lager that just thrives as the weather starts to turn chilly. Like, it does have that warming element to it with those like warm bready notes and just the type of flavour it is. It's just so lovely.
Do you want to hear about why? Festbier is now the beer of Oktoberfest.
I'm going to top my drink up.
Do top up.
I will.
So I went on a little dig around because, as I said in our Marzen episode, so Marzen was the beer that was drunk at Oktoberfest until about 1990, and then it swapped over to Festbier. So you might be wondering, like, why is that? So,
did you say 1990?
1990. So
wow,
actually,
that's not even that.
Right, in the grand scheme of German beer, Festbier is super. Like, it's a new beer.
It's a baby.
Yeah, it's a baby beer. It's so new compared to a lot of German beers. If you think, like, before Marzen came around, they were probably drinking Dunkels at Oktoberfest. Like,
I still love a Dunkel.
Oktoberfest started in 1810. Then the Marzen came about, when did I say? 1872 is when the Marzen started to come in. And then it wasn't until 1990 that Festbier took over as the main beer. So, why did that happen, you may ask?
Why did that happen? I am asking.
So, the Festbier was pioneered by Paulaner. So, Marzen came from the Spartan brewery, as we said in our Marzen episode. But Paulaner is one of the 6 breweries that is in the tents at Oktoberfest. So they pioneered the Festbier. So in the 1970s, Paulaner just decided that the Marzen style wasn't ideal for the festivities. Just decided.
Just because they were like, you know what? We've been doing it this way for so long.
Like 100 years we've been doing this.
It's not the one.
It's not the one.
The idea
100 years,
just got
100 years we've been doing this beer. Now we just decided it's not the one.
100 years and then just go, it's not it, guys.
Right, so apparently they decided, they felt that the Marzen was too filling.
So, like, Paulaner decided that.
Paulaner just decided.
On their own. They were like, guys, everyone, we know there's 6 of us that are actually a fish, but we've elected ourselves the representative of the 6, and Marzen too filling. Cannot have it.
So they started developing a different beer, which would eventually become the Festbier. So some people were like, yeah, okay, it's too filling. So basically they wanted to sell more beer, right? Because people weren't drinking enough beer because it was filling them up, right? So they then went for a different beer style. But also pale lagers were becoming very popular. Like, they were already popular. But in particular, in the 70s, like, there was a big old push where it came over. Like, this is how Canberra started, because pale lagers were coming into pubs and pushing out real ale. So this enjoyment of this lighter lager was happening around the world. So Paulaner started to develop a new beer. They wanted it to still be reasonably malty, but less heavy and lighter in colour than the Marzen. They wanted it to be more quaffable and easy drinking as an alternative to Marzen. So they came up with a Festbier, and they finally got that, like, to the point where they liked it and where they launched it in the 1990s. And ever since then, because there was such a presence of this pale lager in the world, it took over as the beer of Oktoberfest. So the beers that you get at Oktoberfest now, called Oktoberfest beer, will be a Festbier. So it's all Paulaner's fault.
Because they just decided.
Because they just decided.
They were like, oh, guys, it's too filling. It's not the one.
Yeah.
We need a new thing. But actually, on some way though, you've got to kind of like pray, even if it was because they were like, we want to make, even if secretly they were like, we want to make more money, which, well, I will say, I mean, I don't think that this is any more or less filling than a Marzen. For me, it feels like same level of filling.
It's slightly less sweet, so you do want to drink more of it.
I almost, maybe just because comparing directly to the ones we had yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like that from the ones that I enjoyed yesterday. Yeah, it's a little bit sweet. This is a little bit sweeter, but I don't know if it is like so drastically different that in the sense of, oh, this one's super, like, this one's filling and this one's not. Like, for me, that level feels a little bit much for muchness. If anything, I think this one's maybe potentially slightly gassier. So actually, I kind of think that I'd almost feel a little bit more, if I were to drink this in the level that you drink at an Oktoberfest, that I might actually feel a little bit more bloated and and gassy if I had this. Not to say, I mean, I love this, but I kind of feel like, direct comparison to the ones I have yesterday, because those are the freshest on my mind, that this is actually a little bit more gassy. But I think that even that aside, even if it was like a ploy to make a little bit more money because they wanted to sell more or whatever, there's at least like some innovation that's come from that, in the sense of they were like, we'll just create another one. Like, let's take this and let's just try to like improve upon it and just, you know, have something different. And I feel like in a way that's pretty commendable.
Yeah.
There's more styles are always a positive.
Paulina wanted to get in there and change up the game.
Oh,
so they
Paulina. I really like this. I think so what's interesting though, because I feel like this is probably fairly similar to what I like about Marzens. Yeah. Like the Marzens that we had yesterday that I really enjoyed, this is very similar to that. But obviously we'll try the craft version, the UK craft version in a minute. But basically, do you care to kind of explain your frustration of like when you kind of go and you get one and you go, oh, don't like this one?
So this one's fine, but I feel like this one is it's got a real sweetness to it. It's slightly darker than I would expect a Festbier to be when it's given to me. So this one I think is edging more towards a Marzen anyway. The thing that I love about a Marzen is that sweetness, that toastiness, the breadiness. Often when you get a Festbier, you're getting more of the hop notes in it. Then that kind of comes to the fore a little bit more, and it's lighter, so the richness, I think they're not as rich, obviously, and they're not because they want it to be less filling, so you drink more of it. And that's the bit that I really like about it. I like that richness about a Marzen. So that's why I get really upset when I open up a Marzen and it's not like that.
I will say,
that's what I want.
Hilariously, this Festbier I do feel is on the richer side.
Yeah, I think this one's closer to a Marzen than a Festbier.
Closer to a Marzen than some of the Marzens.
Yeah, well, yesterday. Actually, I'll be interested to try this against the second one that we saved from yesterday.
Yeah, and the first one, to be honest. I know they'll be like slightly flat, but
yeah,
we'll
give them a go.
Interesting experiment.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to our craft version?
Let's do that. Let's.
I mean, because basically,
otherwise you're going to.
I've got half a bottle left of this, like not even a full half a bottle, and not even half a glass left. So.
Yeah. All right, so we have Festival Beer from New Barns. I really like this label.
I do as well.
It's got a mug on it with the New Barns label, and it's got a nice foamy head edging over the top, and then it's got one of those green traditional hats from like that you would see at Oktoberfest on it, and then there's some mountains in the background. I really like it.
I really like their label, like just the overall, the back of their label as well. Like it's just really eye-catching. Nice. So this one says, our festival beer is a 5.7% golden lager that we brewed to celebrate all things heritage barley. We've used the greatest hits mega blend of 10 of our favourite barley varieties. These often forgotten grains have become a part of the fabric of New Barns, and in many ways, this beer is the epitome of what we're all about. So
I was going to say, it says the barley varieties on the bottom. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, yeah. It does. I'll show you. You can read it and I'll show
Archer, Scotch Anat, Scotch Common, Maris Otter, Golden Promise, Bear, Chevalier, Bark, and Isaria. Heritage barleys. 10 different ones. That's impressive.
Yeah, and it does say like there's this corner as well. It says heritage barley on that little.
That's interesting because a Festbier is usually mostly Pilsner malt. And they haven't
not
used
this
Pilsner
one
malt at all.
Not this one.
That's interesting. I do enjoy that New Barns use different barleys in their beers, like the different varieties. I had one that was I think it was Chevalier. It was either Chevalier or Plumage Archer from them, and it was delicious. Like people are playing around with different hops. New barns are playing around with different barley. Like, that's interesting,
That
right?
is interesting. And I think I like the name Chevalier. Like, that's a fun name. It's fun to say. It makes you feel luxurious. It really makes you, it conjures up emotions, very positive ones. And the fact that they've used a blend of 10 different ones, I feel like that in itself is really interesting. Like, I feel like this has to be the most barley varieties in a single beer that I've ever had.
I don't know. You might find that some stouts have had a fair amount in them.
Do you reckon? More than 10? 10 feels like a lot.
I was having this conversation with Chris. Hi, Chris! About the amount of different grains you can get in one. He likes to stuff lots of different grains into his stouts. Don't you, Chris?
I just feel like
conversation.
But again, I feel like everything that it just comes back to, I feel like everything that gets called out when it comes to beers is always the hops. It's always the hop selection or the adjuncts. I feel like hops and adjuncts are always the things that are the forefront of a beer. Yeast, barely. Like, people will say what yeast they're using, but barely anybody thinks about the yeast.
Think about yeast, and yeast is it does a lot.
So important.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I know we've said it before. I'll say it again. That Holy Goat beer where they just did the yeast is what effectively made it what it was. Like, there was no fruit added, nothing. It was all because of the yeast. Yeah. So impressive. Like, so much talent. I feel like had to go into that to just use one yeast and be like, that is. This is the result. But also, I do feel like barley, again, the varieties that there are and how they're utilised, like, again, I just don't feel like that gets talked about. I really feel like we so heavily fixate on hops and adjuncts. Yeah. And then barleys, and then yeast.
And I was talking to a brewer the other day, and they were like, oh yeah, so there's this beer that we make. And he was like, I do a mix of 2 yeasts. He's like, and I use a little bit of wheat beer yeast in it. He's like, just to add to the fruitiness, and like it wasn't a wheat beer, but he added a bit of wheat. Like, he's like, I mixed the 2 together because it adds these types of flavours, and I was like, that's genius. Like, people don't think about it.
I stand by the fact that I still would really love, because just the nerd side of me would really, really love like a series of beers that are brewed where it's like the recipe is the exact same and the only thing that changes is the yeast. So that you can see just how much yeast does in that effect. But also I feel like having a beer where the recipe is the exact same but you change up which barley combinations equally could be just as interesting in the same exact way as we like single hop beers and seeing what a single hop is. Like, I feel like people do a series of single hop beers and just go, that's normal, that's what's expected. Like,
or
that's what we do. It's interesting.
Beer, which is single hop, single malt, single hop, but you don't really necessarily think about what the single malt is. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why I was like, actually, it could be more interesting to change up, keep the recipe the same and then change up that, that the barley that you're using or whatever it is that you're putting in that, the yeast, whatever. And that is actually, I feel like, almost more interesting than just doing a single hop beer, series of single hop beers. Or smash beers.
I also think we need to get some more New Barns beers in our lager series because they're just good.
They are good. We're going to crack this. I mean, every time I've had New Barns, I've really enjoyed New Barns.
Yeah, always really enjoyed.
And I'm using my Hoppy Place tiny jug. Shout out to Charlotte.
Oh, now that is. That's the colour that I expect a Festbier to be. That is yellow.
Yeah, this one I would say is actually almost less clear. This one's less clear than the other one. Yeah, no, it's still clear. It is still clear.
It's not just bright.
No, I mean I can still see through it when I look through my little dimples.
Little bit of something suspended in there, but that's fine.
Oh, mine's okay.
It smells different.
Mine's got nothing in it. It does smell different. There's not enough, like, for me, there's not enough of, like, the bready notes in it. Yeah. It's very light, like you said, it is a lot lighter. I feel like the aroma-wise, it's a lot lighter.
I'm almost getting apple.
I was thinking that, but not in a way that it...
Like, not in an off flavour.
Not in an off flavour. And that's why I didn't say it, was because I was like, ooh, I know the second I say apple, it's going to sound like off flavour, but it's not landing in an off flavour way.
It's almost a herbal florally. Yes. Like, almost like apple blossom, maybe.
Yes, apple blossom, yeah.
Interesting.
Like, it feels like it, because it is like, overall, there's not any like big bold flavours or anything that's too malty or anything like that. Like, it doesn't stand out as being...
Yeah.
Like, the apple blossom element of it doesn't stand out as being something that you're like, oh, that's off. Like, just feels like it's supposed to be there.
Right, I want to taste this.
All right, let's go.
Let's go in.
It's not a taste that I expected.
I need some more. I mean, it's just quite dry.
It is quite dry. I do get a little bit more... I think I get a little bit more grain when I'm drinking it. And that's why it's not what I expected. I almost expected it to be a little bit... Like, from the aroma, I almost expected it to be a little bit more sweet because of that, like, apple blossom note. But it's not at all. It's quite dry.
Yeah.
There's almost, like... That crispness almost isn't like a carbonation type crispness. It's like a dry crispness, if that makes sense.
It's quite low carbonation as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's very drinkable.
Interesting. And I do feel like I do get some like grain elements to it.
Yeah.
But it almost feels more like in the linger than it does. I think because obviously my brain goes, oh, I want to have that maltiness in it. But it does. The taste to the aroma are definitely different.
Yeah. There's a little bit of perceived sweetness on the tongue. But overall, it's very dry.
I think I'm struggling because I keep, every time I go in for a sip, I keep smelling that apple blossom and I'm fixating on that. So when I have a sip, it is so wildly different to that it's just throwing me off.
Yeah. I don't think it sits within the style guidelines of a Festbier.
No. I mean, I don't...
It's not a,
compared
it's
to
not
what
a,
you've...
It's not a bad beer.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting lager. I don't think it's a good example of a Festbier.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if I could... I don't dislike it. I just don't know if I could drink this in the same quantity as what I would drink the other beer. Like, I feel like the other one is more... And I think it also is to do with, like, my taste, my personal taste, and what I like. I love lagers that are more malty and bready.
Yeah.
And this is less malty bready. So for me...
It's more grainy.
It's more grainy. But I like grainy.
Which is fine.
But I think it's just like a different type of grainy than the type of grainy that I tend to go for.
Yeah.
So I just don't think I would drink this in the type of quantity that I would drink like the other Festbier in.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting though.
I wonder if that's to do with all the different varieties of barley kind of blending together. Like,
yeah, possibly. Do you want to hear some food and beer pairing?
Oh, yes.
Festbier?
Let's.
So, of course, bratwurst and Bavarian pretzels.
Love it.
Obviously, because that's your standard thing at Oktoberfest celebration.
So tasty first.
Yes, tasty first. A bratwurst rye bread sandwich with spicy mustard.
Oh, child! Oh, right? You know what? It's because I am missing... Oh, I think I've just got a plan. Because I'm going away in a camper van. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is just a brainwave. Because I'm going away this weekend, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to have to eat in the camper van that we're going away. We've rented it. It's all good. I'm missing out on quite a few Oktoberfest situations that are happening, especially this weekend while I'm away. I think I might just get a bunch of lagers and get some bratwurst, and then we'll just grill the bratwurst.
There you go. Have your own Oktoberfest.
I might just be like, we're having our own car park Oktoberfest. And I'll just watch something, I don't know, give me some cheesy recommendations for films, and I'll put it in my stories. I'll be like, give me cheesy Oktoberfest themed films. There we go. I'll listen to Oompa music. I'm going to make some like sick pop punk Oompa playlist. That's good. If you can think it exists. Anyways, back to that. That gave me a brainwave and I got very excited.
If you want to pair it with cheeses, it says stick to relatively mild cheeses like Gouda and Emmental. It will also go well with pizza, barbecue, grilled chicken, battered fish and roasted meat. Now, I think a Marzen goes particularly well with roasted meat and barbecue because there's a little bit more of that Maillard reaction. Because it's a slightly darker beer, you've got more of that Maillard reaction, which is what you get from, grilling meat and roasting it. So I think that pairs a little bit better. So I, as we have said on previous episodes, I was at Guillemoose recently, which is Volksfest. So I'm going to tell you what I had for my dinner with my big old mass of, that was Weinstefana Festbier is what we had there, because Weinstefana sponsored the tent.
Excellent.
We got to see them tap the keg and everything. The, was it the Dirndl Konig tapped the keg. That's the Dirndl Princess.
I want to be the Dirndl Princess. I obviously heard the word Dirndl, but I didn't know that also translated to princess as well. Dirndl Princess.
She was the Dirndl Princess, and
you must only refer to me as the Dirndl Princess from now on.
You haven't got a Dirndl?
I do.
Is it a real one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a world traveller. I'm not a world traveller. No, I don't have a legitimate. I've got an Amazon Prime special Dirndl. It works. It looks legit. Do you have a Dirndl? Do you have a Dirndl in your property? Yeah, but do you have one. No. You've called me out. Do you have a Dirndl in your possession?
I do not. Because I'm going to make my own.
And because you said that you cannot take commissions, that's not on me. I have an Amazon special, and it's not my fault that I don't travel the world.
Fine.
Proceed. I want to be called Dirndl Princess. I have a Dirndl.
She tapped the keg of Weinstefana Festbier. And I had roasted chicken with I think it was a rye bread roll.
Sounds amazing.
That and my big old mass of Festbier. It was a good time. Definitely.
You know what? I take it back. When I said I was not going to buy, when I said I'm not buying the Lidl, I'm not going to do it because it's not even Oktoberfest beers. What I actually meant was I might do that for the camper van because I just want something that I can. Now I'm really craving lagers, but all the lagers that I have are ones for our podcasting. You can't I don't have enough time to order more ones properly. So,
I've also got dessert pairings. Do you want to hear dessert pairings?
I mean, I would have never thought about pairing them with desserts. Let's do this.
Right, dessert pairings. Think sweet with light nuttiness. A nut tart, a toasted coconut flan, or sweet dessert breads.
I don't know if I've ever had a nut tart.
I don't think I've ever had a nut tart. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
I'm going to look it up right now.
It sounds interesting.
Nut tart.
I'm an adult.
Nut tart recipe. There we go.
Or is it just nuts?
Like caramel nut tart, walnut caramel tart, kind of like a pecan pie.
Oh, okay. Oh, I like pecan. I fuck with pecan
tart
pies,
instead, right? Mixed nut and caramel tart. Yeah, so it's
I like that.
It's just like pecan pie.
Okay, I'm back in. Yeah. I thought it sounded a bit rude. It made me chuckle. But now I'm back in. I am 100% back in now.
Sweet dessert breads, like a sweet
like a brioche almost, but
like a brioche, or like a Danish but without all the icing on the top.
Or when you have those brioches that have like vanilla cream.
Yeah.
Not cream, but like custard in them.
Yeah, that with a Festbier.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Times. I've never tried that. I'm gonna have to try that now.
I'm giving you all your ideas for your Oktasty Fest in
my Oktasty Fest. I'm gonna propose that when we're done with this. I'm literally gonna say to Rick, what if we have I love charcuterie, so I was like, we can also have charcuterie because that's so easy to do in a camper van. We can have a charcuterie, and I can get some.
Elemental.
So basically, I will take some wild beers and stuff like that. I've got a Cantillon that I've still got. Take that, and I'll have a charcuterie night on Friday, and then Saturday we get the barbecue out, and I'll be like, hey, bratwurst. It is. I mean, I don't know where I'm gonna. I'll have to go to Tesco and find the bratwurst. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I'll be like, bratwurst, hello. Some brioche buns. If I could find those the little pretzel rolls, the cheese top pretzel rolls again, I'm in. I might have to go up the high street tomorrow and be like, I need those. I don't think you understand. I've got a bratwurst to make.
Brilliant. But yeah, there you go.
Well, before we wrap things up, shall we?
Yeah, let's pull out the ones that we had.
Pull out the ones that we had last
yesterday.
night, and let's just see how they compare.
Yeah. All right. Let's see how it goes. Right. So we have a proper Marzen, and we have one that says it's a Marzen, but we don't think
Not so Marzen.
No.
All right.
Let's compare them. Right. So let's start with
The one that we didn't love as much.
Monchoff.
I want to end on a high note.
I still got a little bit of a fizz. So I don't
I'm
think
also
it's
really
too bad.
gutted that the one that I managed to save the label on was the one that was that I was not as keen on. I also just got a little spritz. It was like a sea
It's
breeze.
not too bad. See, I said putting the lid back on. was a
Sea
good
breeze
idea.
to the face. So yeah, I guess if we're looking in terms of like colour wise, it is like
Still
a
completely different colour.
very. I
the
still
Festbiers.
think it looks more like a wheat beer in general. And if you compare it colour wise, it is similar colour to the New Barnes,
Oh, it is.
but it
Slightly
is a
lighter.
lot more hazy.
Yeah, I think because we said we could see.
Look, like you can't even
yeast
see
in
through
it.
that.
Yeah, the yeast has definitely settled where we opened it, and now it is hazed up.
Hazy boy. It smells. I feel like it smells slightly more appealing to me than it did last night.
I feel like this is just. It's like pills. It's just a pills now. Like
Yeah, it tastes. For me, I will say, I think it tastes better to me today than it did yesterday. So I think
Yeah.
maybe opening, like weirdly, I feel like
Letting it air a little
opening
bit.
it, airing it out, reclosing it, and put it in the fridge, I think potentially has made it taste slightly better. And I feel like I'm getting a little bit more bready note from it than I got yesterday.
I'm getting more hop, and I just feel like that it's more. I feel like it's more pills, more German pills now than it is Marzen or Festbier.
I do still feel like I am getting more breadiness than I got yesterday. Like yesterday I felt like I got none, but I almost feel like I'm getting more wheat characteristics from it.
Yeah, it's got like a lemony note. To it that you'd expect
I
from
did say yesterday I felt like it was more citrus, like lemon.
Yeah.
I really just wish that I could read anything on
says.
here.
Right, hang on. This is what Google translates for. Let's do the. I'm French.
Some of it I thought was Italian. I read like one word and I was like, that looks like it's Italian.
Moschow Marzen is made with cold fermenting yeast and stored cold for a particularly long time, up to 1 degree Celsius. Deep golden in colour with slight opal opacity. Toss lightly before pouring.
Toss lightly.
Brewed according to the Bavarian purity law.
Where did you see all this?
That's on the back.
Are you reading it?
Yeah, I've got it on Google Translate.
Oh.
I told you I was going to use Google Translate.
Sorry, I was deep in read. I was about to be. Do not cut this out because that is great. I was about to be dead impressed.
with my German.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Because I didn't. You said that, and I was still reading. I was so deep in thought, and I was trying to be like. I was thinking my brain was all over the place. It was like hopfin hops, like a hop and vice. Like I know that. Like I actually know that word. That's great. And I was like, Hefin, like yeast. I didn't realise that was that. That's interesting. That's great. And I'm doing like side by side comparisons, and you're like, please toss lightly before doing that. And I was like, how? I was like, how does she toss lightly? I was like, how have you? Yeah, but in my brain, I was like, how have you? That feels like a really niche. Like you know the language at a high. You were like, I can't pronounce this brewery name. I am just learning. And then you were like, oh, toss lightly. Interesting. I was like, how in the hell did you do that? I didn't even see you doing it. That was excellent. That was probably. You shouldn't have said anything. You should have been like, I told you. I told you. I am Duolingoing.
Duolingo is not teaching me about tossing it lightly. That's for sure.
That was excellent. I was like, that is such a niche phrase to learn. Like, my Japanese is teaching me like numbers and random things, but not toss lightly. I was like, wow, yours is doing wonders. Like, that is amazing. You're a savant.
Yeah, so basically it tells you to mix yeast into it, which is not.
I mean, I'm not going to do
not
that.
what we would expect from a Marzen or a Festbier. So I feel like this is an interesting little one here. Still not in. I don't think it meets any of the criteria of Marzen or a Festbier. But it's
honestly,
alright. Tastes alright.
I actually like it better today.
Yeah.
I genuinely do like it more today than I did yesterday. I think
so
yesterday
Troy's recommendation is pop it, close it again, drink it the next day.
Yeah. That is.
Alright, I'm going to crack out some of this of good Marzen. The fave Marzen.
I'm actually liking this one now, to be fair. So, yeah.
Ooh,
Hold on. Actually, before I go to the other one, I am going to have a sip back of the normal. At the Festbier. I do feel it's actually pretty... I don't feel like it's that far off from the Festbier.
I've not got a huge amount of carbonation in this.
Mine still did a pop. It was fine.
Still tastes alright though.
Still smells good.
I'm trying it next to the Festbier. I think
this has gotten flatter than the other one.
it's definitely lost a lot of carbonation. But I feel like we had this one open longer because we had it open all the way through, whereas we shut that one up quite quickly. It's just richer, I think.
I need a water in between because I feel like I can't go from one or the other. It's going to be too difficult.
Richer, more caramel, like more sweet, more caramelly. Which is why I love a Marzen.
The bitterness comes through. I feel like there is a little bit more noticeable. For me, there's a more notable bitterness with the Marzen as opposed to with this Festbier. Interesting. It's not heavy, but it was just more because I feel like I didn't really notice much, if any, bitterness in the Festbier as opposed to in the Marzen. I can kind of taste towards the end a little bit. But then also, I don't know if it's temperature, because this has just come out the fridge, for example.
Yeah, it could be. It could also be, like, not quite, like, toasty. Coming across as bitter.
Yeah, that would make sense, to be fair. Because it does start out, because the front end of the taste is a little bit more toasty.
Yeah.
And it's, like, the back end, that lingering aftertaste is a little bit more bitter.
Like, I don't want to say roasty, but it's that kind of in between toasty roasty, like where it can be a little bit bitter.
I know what you mean with the roasty. I get what you mean. It makes sense. Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. I think that it's just obviously there's a very clear difference in the carbonation as well. But I feel like still enjoyable. But I genuinely feel like that other one that I said yesterday was not enjoyable is fairly enjoyable.
I'm glad that we've restored your faith in that.
Yeah, it has definitely restored my faith. So,
I like it. It's not a bad beer. It's just not a Marzen. Or a Festbier.
Or a Festbier. I don't know. Like I said, today, it doesn't look it. It doesn't really smell it.
It doesn't smell it.
It doesn't really smell it. It tastes more Festbiery. Not Marzen-y. I don't think it tastes Marzen-y. I think it tastes mildly more Festbiery today.
I mean, I'll take your word for it because I don't think it does, but
I think.
But this is a prime example of why I get upset at this time of year.
I can get it
because it's called a Marzen, and this is nothing like a Marzen. Like, and the one thing that I think is good about beer styles is that it helps to guide you to pick things that you think you'll like, and then when they're so far off base, like, you got no chance.
Agree. That is true. I do agree with that.
Welcome to my TED Talk. Thank you for listening to
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about why Marzens should be Marzens.
I will never not think that's funny, the fact that I thought you genuinely read that whole back of that bottle.
That's brilliant.
That's my favourite thing from the whole episode. Forget everything that I learned today. Forget all this great beer that I drank. My takeaway from today is that it was really... I was quite shocked when Jo was able to to very clearly, distinctly read the back of it for very odd instructions. Loved it. So
It
yeah,
just goes to show how much she listens to me.
I was deep in thought.
Deep in thought, and had not paid attention to the fact that I was like, this is what Google translates for.
I was miles away, just like I'm trying to, because I was trying to piece together the English that was underneath, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting connection. Oh, that's interesting. Phased that out completely, and then went, what a genius.
I suppose that's my top tip if you're travelling, right? You need to download
Google Translate,
download the language of the place that you're going to, and then use the camera
over
whatever you're looking at. It's great on menus when you're at a restaurant.
100%, because I think ideally,
although there are moments where I'm like, is that what it really means? And then
you can usually get the gist of it. Yeah. I think the only thing, I mean, while we're on the topic, which is, I feel like it's not us if we don't tangent, but I think the only thing that I would say is, like, for example, when you're looking, at least for, I can only say really when it comes to Japanese, because I know kanji and katakana and hiragana very slightly, there's multiple different alphabets in Japanese.
Yeah.
And things that are very slightly different can completely change words.
Right.
And so if something's handwritten, which, like, when you go into an izakaya, which is like quite a small, usually like family run, very small, like, bar, you can go in and they'll handwrite like what the small bar menu is. The trouble with that is, because it's handwritten, Google Translate is like, I think this is what it is. Yeah. I don't know. So that is like, it's more when it's printed menus and it's very clear. And I'm guessing you probably would still have that same trouble if it was handwritten in another language. It's just the trickier challenge with anything that's like a visual language like that, when it's written, is if you have things that are too similar, that's the extra challenge. Whereas, like, anytime you're looking at a handwritten menu and full stop, Google Translate is going to be what does this mean? Especially if the handwriting is not very
That's when I
clear.
turn around to my German colleagues and just go, what is it?
Says the person that told me I couldn't be the dirndl queen, the dirndl princess, because I didn't have a real authentic dirndl. I'm like, oh, okay, shame me because I've not been to Germany.
Oh, she's sour about that as well. Because she never gets to go anywhere.
I told someone that the other day. I was like, I never get to go anywhere. And by that, I mean I've never got to go to Germany. And it's not fair.
She's definitely not going to Japan for a month. Like
3 weeks.
Oh, sorry.
And not even a full 3 weeks.
Right, yeah. So,
but yeah, well, there we go.
I'm eye rolling hard right now.
I have told people at work when I'm like, oh, everyone's going on holidays, I'm so jealous, or like, oh, I'm so busy, and they're like, oh, you're really busy. It's like, so busy, there's so much going on, and they're like, oh, I feel so bad. I'm like, oh, I mean, don't feel bad for me.
Don't feel bad for
I'm literally going off and I'm like, oh, in a few weeks I've got to get this all done in a few weeks time, and I'm like, well, don't feel bad for me. I am going on holiday
not feel bad for her.
For like 3 weeks.
She's fine.
I will be okay.
Fine. Hard eye roll right now.
First world problems.
Yeah. And then she's going to go to the US to see her family as well. So she's good. She's fine.
That's not holiday, though.
It's still travelling out of the country. Don't need to translate. Well, you don't need a translator over there.
I don't. No, I mean, I guess it depends on where I go now. Some people are like, what are you saying?
Good. Nobody understood a word I said when I first got into the US.
Did they just smile? I bet they loved it.
So I was, my taxi driver wasn't even American, but didn't understand that I said I worked for a hop company. Oh, I worked I was like, I work in a hop company. And he's like, oh, what that's for? I was like, oh, for beer. And he was like, BMW?
For beer, BMW? And you're like, yeah.
No, beer. And he was like, you work for BMW? And I was like, no, like beer, the drink. And he was like, oh. And I was like, wait, like...
You are so much more... My thing is I would have been like, yeah.
Yeah, totally works BMW.
Just to stop the conversation, because I don't like forced conversation. I think I probably would have been like, yeah, I do. And they'd be like, oh, amazing. And I'd be like, it's pretty cool.
He then told me that his kids have been watching Bake Off on Netflix, and now they talk in British accents. And I was like, well, you should be able to understand me then.
I have so much more I can say on that topic, but I won't because I feel like we've come to a natural end because now we've finished our Festbiers.
Here we are.
We finished our Marzens.
We have. Tori, if people want to sympathise with you that you never get to go anywhere because you haven't been to Germany.
If you want to side with me because you feel like I should be the Dirndl princess because I actually have one, it doesn't matter that it's an Amazon. I'm sorry that I can't afford
the Dirndl princess. Germany would be so mad.
Yeah, but obviously I wouldn't do that if I was in Germany. I obviously wouldn't do that if I was in Germany. I'm not going to do a Paris throwback. I'm not going to do a Paris Hilton and come in my lingerie and call it a Dirndl. No, this is tasteful. This is a tasteful Amazon. It is. It is. Okay. It is. I mean, I will show you. There were people proper wearing it to events. It's not a sexy dirndl where they're like, oh, it's like your bum cheeks are out or something like that. It was a tasteful dirndl. Okay. So yeah, if you want to sympathise with me and feel bad for me because I don't actually get to go anywhere and it's not fair and I should just be the Dirndl princess, you can come find me on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism. You can email me at adventuresinhoptimism@gmail.com. I am also on the TikTokies. I can't promise I'm going to have that much because it just comes in waves. It comes when it comes and you got to take it. And then it's a desert for a bit. Yeah, when creativity strikes and I've got a lot in my brain, it all comes out at once because I also am impatient and I don't want to wait to space out my really great ideas. So you'll get all of them in one go. Yeah, you got to follow me because I'm going to be unfairly, feel bad for me, travelling. I'll be travelling at the point. I will have been travelling at the time at which this has come out, and you can see Rick's agreed to blog stuff with me, and video stuff with me. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that stuff. I'm on the YouTubes, but you can find it all from my profile on Instagram. And if you want to weigh in on the Dirndl argument. You can go. Maybe we'll post a picture of this of me and the Dirndl and if you want to weigh in,
the Dirndl princess.
Yeah, and does Joe have a right? And does Joe have a right because she's going to be making herself one eventually and doesn't have one yet?
I've got the pattern.
I've got the Dirndl.
I need to get the fabric.
So you can weigh in on this argument. You can find us on Instagram at A Woman's Brew, or you can email us. If you're just like, no, I need to put words down here, you can email us at awomansbrewpodcast@gmail.com. Joe, where can people find you and find out what you're doing while I'm travelling the world?
Yeah, find out what I'm doing while she's abandoned me. I'm holding down the fort.
After you've abandoned me a few times.
I only go for a week.
I'm just doing all my singular weeks in one go.
Just doing it all at once. While I hold down the fort, you can find me at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest and X as well. I don't really look at anything but Instagram. So come and talk to me there. Might be putting some things up on TikTok. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how I feel. Again. They stopped allowing me to post things.
Why?
I had a video about Orval and they pulled it down because they said it didn't meet the community guidelines, and I was like,
what?
Yeah, so I never found out why that was. It was weird. So I haven't posted there for a while
because they don't want to take down actual trolls, and they don't want to take down people doxing people or doing anything harmful. They want to make sure that somebody or scammers don't bother reporting any of it.
No.
They would rather make sure that they take down your Orval post.
Yeah, my bit about the history of Orval, but
super niche.
Really, really niche. Definitely needed taken down. That was dangerous.
It's too much.
So just come find me on Instagram, or you can come to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. There is some new blog posts and stuff up there, so come and have a look at those. Or you can email me lovebeerlearning@gmail.com because those are not going to go away. Right, so let's go finish this Festbier because this Festbier was great. Cheers.
Prost.